Here we go. Hey, another Thursday, another in the huddle. Thank you for joining us or watching this at a later time. These topics just keep getting better and better. They're very hard hitting, very applicable to your business. And today is the same. It's going to be a fantastic session. I'm joined with Jason Nunemacher, who, um, so funny story. I kept introducing him as someone who owns and operates $20 million annually with his tree care companies in the state of Arizona. And then in a meeting, he said, "Hey, by the way, it's actually 27 million." So the dude just keeps growing faster than I can even introduce him. So every time I introduce him, he grows by another million. So he knows what he's talking about. So not only that, but he's also a certified 10X business coach with the Grant Cardone organization. So just incredibly knowledgeable. Also joined with Rob Cain, who owns Automation Invasion. And he is just a marketing guru, really smart marketing mind. And automations, something that you really absolutely need to implement into your business. And me, Chris Volpe, I was with Service Autopilot for a decade, helped train hundreds of companies, got to interact with the lawn care millionaire himself on a daily basis and learned a ton from him. And so today we're going to be talking about demystifying sales, maybe the most important topic for any business is you gotta have cash flow and you gotta have new business, and you gotta have sales. So let's demystify it. And who better to demystify it than the guy that I was talking about earlier, Jason?
Thank you, Chris. And love working with Chris, known him for the 10 years he's been at Service Autopilot. And the lawn care millionaire, Jonathan Potashnik, was a mentor of mine, coach of mine. And obviously, we've used the software for our service companies. And Rob Cain, we worked together for about 4 or 5 years in one of our service companies and was very instrumental in the building blocks of creating the companies that we've created. So really cool how that all circled around for us to do this together and provide a lot of value to the audience. So, and yes, so as a 10X business coach for Grant Cardone, sales is definitely like, I can't think of anything in business that's not a passion of mine to talk about, but I definitely have a passion to talk about sales. And I would say, why a 10X business coach, why Grant Cardone? I will tell you, like, I'm not your typical guy that's just a Grant Cardone fan as far as his personality. He's very polarizing. And so that was the reason why I decided to be a coach, because I know that the material is fantastic, but I know that there's a lot of people he doesn't reach because of his marketing efforts and his polarizing personality. And so, but I think there's a lot of value that people can get out of the content, out of the material. And that's why I try to bring it to the marketplace, because it's worked for us and it worked for others. The other thing is he's done a very, very good job. Any training, I've been through a lot of sales training. He's a master at creating building blocks, right? Not just giving you just theory only, not just giving you tactics only, but creating building blocks that really help you understand that it's really just it's a process. And because I'm an ops guy by heart, not a sales guy, it made a lot of sense to me. And so understanding that there's a way to do sales through a process just really got me excited about, hey, I need to learn this. I want to help our own team with this. And so I think that's why sales became a passion for me from coming from the operations side. And so the topic demystifying sales, one of the first trainings I started doing was talking about sales is just communication. And so we have this thing in our mind when we hear the word sales or salesperson, or, we want to call ourselves a consultant sometimes, or all these other words, because we're afraid of that, whatever that stigma is with salespeople. But really, you could totally interchange the word sales with communication. And that's really what it is. It's how do we have a great conversation between two people where we understand the mutual benefit and outcomes of that conversation and drive it to a successful transaction. and understand, like, we have our entire teams on sales training because it's communication training. And so we want every interaction, and we want people to be professionally trained on every interaction. And so they understand how to have communication, whether that's client facing, whether that's internal, whether that's me and an employee. I want to know how to interact with them, how to have a better conversation where I understand their needs and wants, and we can conclude to a mutual beneficial transaction out of that conversation, be very productive. So that's my intro to this of demystifying sales, is because it's really just communication. In our show prep, Rob, you and I were talking about that. You kind of interjected talking about that first step of getting to know the person on the other side of that conversation. In this setting, we'll just talk about a customer, but just understanding, the first place a lot of people like to, I said, just go into presentation mode. You hear that all the time. Pay attention. You go anywhere, you go to look at a car, you get a phone call about something. You even inquire about getting your house painted or a roof or something that you're trying to do. They go right into presentation. And Rob and I heard this term in the past called they we all over themselves, right? And it's all about them. But really the thing is let them do the talking, ask the questions, ask very pointed, relevant questions. And so talk about that, what you kind of talked with yesterday in our show prep, Rob.
Yeah, to piggyback off what you're saying, I mean, I've heard it said, a million times that your customer should be doing 80% of the talking when you're having that sales interaction. And, I think trying to keep that in mind as a target when you're having that conversation is just an important afterthought, right? That you're bringing into it, where, especially when we have a lot of experience within the industry that we work in, we know the products back and forth. We can even arrive at a property and know exactly what it is that we're going to sell before, we even start that conversation. We miss that whole opportunity to develop that relationship with the customer and really understand exactly what it is that they really want, right? And we were talking a little bit to Chris yesterday about, the cleaning business. When you're working with a customer who's worked with people within your industry before, and they've worked with a variety of different companies, specifically in the service industry, they sort of have an idea as to what they're going to be getting. But the only way that you're going to be able to separate yourself from those other companies is by truly learning exactly what that pain looks like for the customer. What is it that you're really trying to what are they trying to get from you, and it may not just be like you mowing their lawn every week. It may be, some level of expertise that you're bringing to the table, or just a good relationship. But you're not going to be able to establish that if you go right into that dog and pony show of showing them, this is everything that my company offers, and then is this something that you want to move forward with, right? It's like, let's take the time to really ask those qualifying questions so that we can truly dig into the reason why they're reaching out to us, why maybe they're switching from another company and going and working with us, or maybe they've never hired anybody within the industry that you work in before, and they're looking for a specific type of relationship that you're never going to understand or truly uncover unless you have that conversation to pull out that information from them and figure out exactly, what it is that they're truly looking for.
Yeah, and if you think of the sequence of it, like how can you, so the end result we want is we want to do business with them, right? We know we have a product that can solve problems for people, right? And we know we do a good job. We know that we have a great service offering, we have great people. And so we want to close that deal. Well, you have to reverse engineer. What is that? If I want to close that deal, what does that look like? Well, to close the deal, I need to give them a price, right? I need to give them a proposal that has a price and a menu of things that they're doing. Well, how do I do that? Well, I'm going to have to present what that looks like, right? What are those things that are going in that menu? What's the price going to be? And then how can I present if I don't know exactly what I'm solving? And so that's where the first step after you introduce yourself and get, a little bit of rapport built is fact finding, just digging in and finding out, hey, what is the real, a lot of sales training calls it pain, right? What is the real pain? What's the discomfort? What's the thing that they're running from or they're trying to run towards? And if we go right into presentation mode and we assume we know what they want, we think it's the thing that we do. That is not what they're buying. They're using the thing that we do to solve the problem that they have. And so we need to understand that. And so it'd be great if we could just go and say, hey, you called us out for lawn mowing or tree trimming, right? We say, okay, and people do this. We've done it in the past. Hey, tree trimming, here's your price. We're going to trim your trees. Or we're going to mow your lawn, it says price. And then people don't buy and we wonder why, right? Well, the reason why is because that didn't connect with the thing. They don't know if that really solves their problem. So all they're doing now is looking at price because nothing changed for them in their mind. Nothing differentiated from what they had that they didn't want anymore, which is obviously the reason they're calling you. They were either doing it yourself, they don't want to do it anymore. They had a company they don't like anymore. Whatever the case may be, they're changing something about that. And so if they don't understand what that change looks like, they don't know if they should use you. And so then they're going to focus on price. And you may not know why you didn't get it and why you did. Even if you might have, how many times have you done a bid and you say, hey, they said, well, I got a bid cheaper. Hey, what if I match that or beat it? You still don't get it. It's not because of the money. That's why we talk about price is a myth and it's made up, right? Because a lot of times it's not the money. It's that I don't know that you sound like everybody else. You sound like, I don't know that you're different from what I had before, or even from the guy I talked to. So understand we have to have a conversation where we probe and find out, hey, to what Rob was saying, why now? Why are you making this change? What has you talking to us now? And I like to talk about, I like to ask questions that are more personal of, hey, how long you've lived in the house? I want to know what the history is with their buying habits and what they've done with the service before. Have you ever had professional lawn care done or tree care done or roofing done or whatever? Well, obviously roofing they have, or you done it yourself in the past. I want to know what that looks like so that I can present later to what they're looking for, what they're trying to change. And so then I'm going to ask, hey, what did you like about that? And if it's a competitor that they were using, hey, what did you like about the service you had before? I want to start on positive note because they don't want to disparage people, and they might tell you, I didn't like anything about it, so I'm calling you, right? So you just get a bunch of information. Hey, well, what was missing? What did you wish happened? What are some things that are non-negotiables for you, right? And you start finding out those things. And with the fact finding, yes, we need to find information so we can present solutions to the problems they're trying to solve. But the one thing that I learned, and I don't remember hearing this through any training, it's just something that I realized that was going on. One of the most important parts of fact finding with a client is for them to hear themselves talk about the problem they're trying to solve, how big of a problem it is, and how bad they want to solve it. And the only way they're going to do that is by asking questions to them, and the right questions, relevant questions, and getting answers. And so I think we miss a big opportunity. We don't take that chance to find out, hey, what are you really trying to accomplish here? What's the goal with the yard? Because think about this. If you never, one of the things Grant says, assume you're on the wrong product, right? So just always assume that what they called you for is not really what they want, because it may be true. And if you don't check every time, you might be trying to solve the wrong thing and you can't figure out why you're not getting the deal. Because think about this, if they're selling their house in 3 months and they just want to get it, cleaned up to look nice, they're probably not buying that big old package that you're trying to sell, but you didn't ask enough questions. You went right in present mode and like, no, I'm not interested. Right. And I'm not saying what you want, you don't want a bunch of wasted time with follow-up, because if that's the goal, that may not be your client, right? Or you might say, hey, we'll do a one-time cleanup, and you put a lot of margin on, you go do it and be on your way. And but that's what the deal is. But you don't find those things out unless you ask questions. You don't find the things you want to find out. Do they entertain people? Do they have pets that they, care about the quality of their yard for their pets? Do they like to relax, and after a hard day's work, is that a big deal to them? But just finding those things out gives you the reasons why they're doing these things. And so now when you go to your presentation and you start solving the things that they hated from the last people, and the things that were missing, and the things they want to make sure happen, now you can say, well, here, let me show you. And we talked about yesterday on our show prep, the one size fits all, right? People don't want to feel like they're in a one size fits all. However, you can have a product that is a one size fits all, but the way you frame it based on what you heard from the fact finding, the probing, is going to sound custom, right? But I'm still offering the same tree trimming to them that I'm offering to somebody else. There might be a couple changes, but in reality, it's mostly a one size fits all. I'm just going to frame it different based on what they told me they're trying to accomplish. And there might be some nuances that I say, hey, we got to make sure we treat this client this way. So
Yeah.
any other insight of that or questions that you had? I know you brought some stuff up yesterday, Chris, as well.
Yeah, I think that's been one of the biggest, maybe the biggest learning experience, running my own company, owning my own company, is not weeing all over myself. Just, being so desperate, like, for the sale. Because, like, people can smell that desperation. Like, if you're just desperate and you just launch into that, like you said, you just completely miss the mark of what do they really want. And whenever I stopped and started, like, take a breath and then ask those questions and get on the same page more, the sales process was just always so much smoother.
Yeah, for sure. And I'm actually okay with some desperation if you've done the rest of the process the right way. Like, I want you to know I want to earn your business. I'll do whatever it takes to earn your business. Now, that doesn't mean I'm going to give away my product, right? But I want them to know. But the first thing I want them to do is know that I'm interested. And through fact finding, like when you're asking questions, think about um like you actually become a an expert in their eyes, right? Because you're asking questions, not giving them answers. They're like, man, these people know what they're talking about because the quality of your questions and the fact that you're asking them. You make a huge connection. You talking about bonding and rapport, and a lot of people like to talk about, the things in their yard, or things in their house or their car, or what do you do for work? And those things are fine. But where you're really going to get bonding and rapport is taking interest in, why are you doing this? What do you want? At the end of the day, what does this look like for you to be successful, right? And when I've taken the time to really understand what their needs are, why they want it, how important it is to them, what is the value if you do it, and what are the consequences if you don't, right? And you take that extra time to do those things, you made a huge connection. And so now when I go into, hey, I want to do whatever it takes to earn your business, I'm fine with being desperate when I want a sale and showing that. But I've also done a great job to show that I'm interested. I know exactly what you want. My proposal, my solution matches that. And I just know I've created that great connection that nobody else does, because I know everybody else, they just go right into presentation mode.
Yeah. I think one thing that really helped me, just even over the last 4 years, stepping away from not doing as much service autopilot work, but also working with Salesforce implementation, we're trying to score really big projects, right? Like these are, $50,000, $125,000 jobs that we're doing with companies that are relying on us to help implement a CRM for them. And one huge part of our sales process was literally a 90-minute business analysis, right? So we're not asking for any money up front. I just want to get to know your company, get to know your people, get to understand your processes from end to end. And the more users that we could include in that process, the more information I got to come back with a presentation to say, hey, not only are we going to be able to solve the things that you came to us for, but now we have, like this process that's outlined, and we've identified this many bottlenecks because of that. And the only way that I was able to get to there is by spending that 90 minutes and having that conversation and identifying all these additional opportunities where I knew that I could help solve their problem. So I think bringing that down to that micro level, it's like, your business, what right looks like when it comes to the service that you're offering. And so when you start asking questions about that, like who's managing your lawn today? Like, what are you doing to keep up with it? Like, all these things that you bring to the table without even going into any solution. Because when I had that 90-minute call, my solution wasn't, I didn't present it that day. Like I came back the next day or a few days later to talk through exactly what my findings were. So you're blocking out that time at the beginning of the sales call and making sure that you're covering all your bases, establishing that relationship. You're that much more likely to close that sale, I think, just because, again, like what you said, you're not presenting a solution. You're becoming that expert in their mind by asking those key questions that are going to benefit you in the long run. It's going to help you, with your presentation.
Yep. And it's going to increase your close rate. Like fact finding is the number one thing to increase your close rate. You do that really well, you will close more deals. That it's better than learning any closing techniques, learning handling objections, even follow up. Follow up is probably a second to fact finding on closing more deals. But the other thing we talked about too is the use of technology and automations. Obviously, I use a lot of automations. Rob, that's kind of part of what you do for a living. Chris, you were at Service Autopilot. That was one of the big features, with their software. And for me, and I like to, challenge things to know, hey, what's the fastest path to success? What's the best recipe? And so I don't like to just take, hey, this is what the herd is doing. And so even though I believe in that, that's what we do, it's what we help clients with. I think there's a place for it, but I think, man, if we lose that human touch of communication, I think we're missing opportunities to help more people so they buy from the right people. That's the whole point, right? People are interviewing you to find the right person. They're not looking for the best price. You think that, and that's what they talk about, but they're really interviewing you just like you interview employees for the right person, the right company with the right solution, and they will pay the right price when that matches. But if they don't see that, then they're going to focus on price. And so I think another thing we talked about, like for us, it's pretty, with tree service, you almost have to go to the property, assess it to give them a proper bid, especially if you're doing tree removal, stuff like that, right? And so, although I've challenged that thought with the way Jonathan, started doing lawn care, and I think I have a formula that I could try, just have never done it. But with that being said, so our ticket price is a lot higher in our minds sometimes, right? We're running, $2,400 to $2,800 per ticket with our clients. Well, if you look at a lawn care or house cleaning that you're doing, and you look at the client annual spend, a lot of times you guys are looking at like, it's $125, $175, $225. No, that's not what it is. If you look at the annual spend by how many visits you're doing, plus the extra that they're going to buy over time because of holidays, spring cleanup, fall cleanup, or holiday cleanups for you. Maybe they have a party, right? And they want to get it cleaned before or after. So there's going to be that. You got to figure out what is that client annual spend. And I guarantee you, every time I've talked to lawn care companies and house cleaning companies, their annual spend is pretty close to ours. Sometimes more, sometimes a little bit less. And so to me, like, I see the value in a ticket that size, the value in having a conversation. And so I really would have you think about, hey, what is the business model that do you think is the best? And it's so easy to say, hey, let's just automate everything. But if you're not closing enough deals, you're playing the quantity over quality game. And that's fine if that's what you want to do. And hey, I want to have a business where it just runs itself and it's completely automated. And I'll just spend a bunch of money on marketing because I know I'm going to close fewer deals than I would if we were talking to them in person. Totally good with that. I also want to challenge that and make sure that you understand the opportunities you are missing by not having real conversations. And
I got a question on that.
Yeah, go ahead.
So, and I asked this question out of my own previous experience and a lot of other business companies that I've talked to over the years at Service Autopilot. But it almost seems like whenever you can have a human interaction or a conversation on the phone, it's so much easier you can even do a bad job at the sales process. But it's like that human interaction, like once you have that, it's like so much easier to do the sales process. One of the difficulties that, I face and I know a lot of other companies face is like not even getting the customer or the lead on the phone. So it's like, so I know we're talking about like following up with automations and human touch, but like do you have any advice on like how do you like do you get them in with like a really simple text message, or like how do you get them to reach out to you, or not just do like hey, I'm interested in a quote, and then they ghost you? Like how do you close that gap so you can start a human interaction? Does that make sense?
Yeah, absolutely. So again, I think you got to be skilled up. You have to understand what's going on, where you're at in the process of this sale, right? And you're at the beginning stages and you have to be committed to whatever the outcome you want, right? And so with that, so Grant talks about creativity follows commitment. So if I get committed to the outcome I want, through the process I think is going to give me the best outcome, then I'm gonna get creative. And that's where the magic happens, is getting creative with how do I get somebody on the phone, right? What is it going to take for them to take my call? Some of those things might be, hey, I want to make sure I don't overcharge you. And I had a couple questions before I just send you this quote. Like, who doesn't want to not get overcharged? So why wouldn't they jump on the phone? Right. And so I can have that conversation. And this creativity thing is a muscle you build. Like I have done this over time. And there's so many scenarios when I'm talking to clients or talking to friends or even talking to you guys where I can just pop up with something creative. They don't even know anything. Like I have a client who's a plumbing supply company. I don't even know anything about that business. But as we're talking, like I start throwing out these scenarios that just because of that, building that muscle of creativity, that it just works, right? And being strong on follow-up, have a follow-up process. That's part of communication. That's part of the sales process, is follow-up. And so you have to understand, this is a totally different subject. I think I might have talked to on another call, like, but people are busy, and so they have a few minutes to reach out and find somebody to solve that thing for them, and then they get busy. And so the fact that they are not answering is not a bad thing. It doesn't mean they're not interested. It means they're still interested. As soon as they pick up and take your call, they either had time to talk to you or they know it's going to be quick because they're like, hey, I already got that taken care of. Thanks for calling. Right? So don't be afraid to continue to call them. You're not harassing them. You're not bothering them. They need that thing still until they tell you they don't, but you have to, every interaction, you have to find a way to add value and not just say, hey, will you buy from me? Will you buy from me? Can I talk to you? Like, what are some creative things? What are the things you can do to get interest from them? You have to get their attention first. You have to get them interested in wanting to talk to you so you can have that conversation. And so it's just a matter of being creative, and why would they jump on a phone call with you? And I think saving money, not getting overcharged on a bid would be a good reason.
Great. That's a great idea. I'm totally going to try that in the future. I love that.
Yeah. And even saying things, hey, I'd love to give you a bid. Easy to give you a bid. I just want to make sure that we know what you don't want to have happen, that have maybe happened in the past, and what things are non-negotiables that you want to make sure happen in your next service. And so it's easy for me just to throw, hey, we'll mow your lawn for this price, or we'll clean your house for this price. That's the easy part. But getting it right for you, to making sure we have the right solution for you that fits you and what you want, to me, that's where the 5-minute call. So I'd love to have that with you and get that taken care of so that we're on the same page and you're not disappointed by us. Because our satisfaction rate, by the way, and this is something we use in with our tree service when we're trying to get husband and wife through on big ticket, right? Is our satisfaction rating is more important than the money you spend with us. And we know if we don't have you on the phone discussing this, our satisfaction rate drops below 40%. But when we know we take that extra time to meet with both you and your husband, or meet with you, have a phone conversation with you, or meet you at your property, fill in the blank, whatever you want to say there, our satisfaction rate is above 95%. And so this phone call with you is super important for that reason. Money is the easy part. Your satisfaction is the hard part. And so if we don't get on the same page and have that conversation, I'm not going to be happy that we're not making you happy. And so those are things that give people a why. Oh, that makes sense. They're different. And you sound different. Like you're taking interest in them. You care about them. You care about the outcome. Why wouldn't they want to jump on the phone with you? So does that help?
Oh, that's really good.
Yeah. So yeah, just going back to having those conversations and deciding what business model you want to be. Maybe you do go to, hey, we have one client that does lawn care that goes to every property. Rob and I both work with him. He goes to every property and he does lawn care face to face with them, right? Not even just over the phone. So, but he finds the value in that. It feels like he closes way more deals at a higher rate, ticket average, and that works for him. So you might go from totally automated to something like that, or maybe a hybrid in between. But you just have to make that decision. I just want to make you aware of what opportunities are available by using those different things. And we definitely use automations, even though we have that upfront conversation, because it is a tool. It's hard to follow up. If you're not closing every deal, you're going to get compounded with unsold bids, right? So you need that help. You need a process to help, one, send things out that you like. I don't need to send an email myself, right? It can be constructed ahead of time and go out to every customer. But What I do need is on my schedule. I need to know that on day 7, I need to call this person because I've done 2 other phone calls. I've done a text. I've done an email, but now it's time to call. It needs to be on my schedule so we can automate that part of it and still have a live reach out, right? So I'll give you a little nugget here, and then we'll kind of wrap up. But let's say you are just saying, hey, you know what, I'm gonna keep my my automated process, and you wanted to go a little bit hybrid. One thing that you could and should do is text everybody immediately after the bid or even the conversation, because I'm sure most of those come in, at least talk to somebody before they get a bid. Sometimes all the way automated, but send out that text right after that interaction. Hey, thank you for your time. Appreciate you reaching out to us, right? Just short and simple, nothing big, because nobody's doing that, right? It's immediate. And then later on that day, depending on what time of day they call, just make that phone, have somebody make that phone call. Hey, we appreciate you reaching out. We know that, we provide you with a lot of information. Oftentimes there's questions people had that they didn't have the opportunity or didn't think of to ask. And so we want to make ourselves available to ask those questions. And just having that same day second touch. So the first touch was that text. Second touch is that I'm available for any questions. You'd be surprised how many people are like, oh yeah, I meant to get back to you and say, let's do that. Or I had this question. Or, yeah, I talked to my spouse and they had this question. But it gives you that opportunity, and you don't have to wait 1 day, 2 days. Even if I meet somebody face to face, like, yeah, we'll get back to you. We're getting other bids. We'll get back to you, next Tuesday. I'm going to call back the next day or the same day later on and just say, hey, we had a great conversation. Same thing I just told you. Want to get back to you. Sometimes you think of questions you didn't have the chance to ask. I want to make sure I made myself available. So those are some things that you can add in. Anything you guys want to add before we wrap up?
I think it's
a lot, but
I know it's crazy. I could go on, literally, I could go on for, hours talking about stuff. Like 30 minutes is not enough to talk about what we just talked about. But anything to conclude us out though, Rob?
No, I mean, I love what you just said with the follow-up text message. I think any opportunity that you get to communicate who your company is, the type of relationship that you want to establish with the client right out of the gate. Chris, we were talking yesterday about like, you have like a book now, like get a quote on most of the websites or ads that I see where it's like, if you're starting off that messaging of like book a consultation, now they know that it's going to take a little bit of time for you to speak with them to make sure that you're figuring out exactly what it is that they need. So you set the stage for that time that they need to set aside in order to move forward with you. And it's just like, it's a subconscious thing, right? And I think developing your message around that type of company that you want to run, I think is huge out of the gate.
Cool. Yeah.
Yep. I totally agree. I think one of the biggest takeaways I have, and I'll be able to apply this immediately, is just, I know the stats. Like Grant talked about this, it's very clearly in a slide. Jason, I know you've talked about this in the past about if you never follow up, you're never going to get the sale. But if you've got to follow up at least 5 times, if not up to 12 times, and I forget what the percentage is, but like it's like that 5th time threshold is like 80%. You have an 80% chance of getting in touch with them and closing the deal. And so it's like, so leverage automations, leverage AI, the way that everyone is going, but don't lose that human component. So, do the follow-up, the touch-ups with the automation, and then boom, like whenever you have that last human touch, that text message, that one additional phone call or whatever, that could be the tipping point that gets you the sale. So that's something that I'm going to apply in my business immediately.
Yeah, in that process, you should automate that, because talk about this all the time. If you don't have always, you end up with nevers. So if your follow-up's random because you're not organized, I mean, that is the way to get organized. Most salespeople are not the most organized, detailed people, right? And so you run off a system rather than your own head. And so if it takes 5 to 12 to get that sale, and you're only getting to 2 because you couldn't even remember, like that's why you need to automate the process of it. Doesn't mean automate every communication, but automate the process of when those communications happen and how they happen. And so huge part of increasing your sales and closing deals.
I love
I'll
it.
let you take it.
That's great. Well, what was that?
No, I said, I'll let you take us out.
Awesome. Hey, another fantastic topic. Just if you have something that you want to talk about, if you have a question, if you have a follow-up question, if you want to book a call with the sales guru over here, Jason, how do they get in touch with you?
Yeah, you can reach out to me, email info@disruptorgroup.com. And also you can post a link to my calendar link on your post for the audience. And I do group coaching calls. We have sales training. We do some one-on-one with the right team. So definitely reach out. We can have a conversation, see what you're trying to accomplish and solve, and see if it might be a good fit to work together.
Awesome. Apply these things, reach out. Coaching, I firmly believe in coaching. The statistics are out there. If you invest in coaching, you don't even see an ROI. You see an exponential return on that coaching. So it's worth it. And what better way to increase your bottom line, increase more sales coming in, than to focus on coaching for sales with your sale, whether you're owner operator right now and you want to get out of the field, and so you need to sell more so you can hire on more, or if you have a team already and you want to increase their sales and their efficiency, that's the way to do it. Absolutely, hands down. So this wraps up this week. We have hopefully demystified sales a little bit. If it's still a little unsure to you, reach out to Jason.
Just communication, just conversation.
It's just communication and conversation and practice. Like you said, it's a muscle. It's a creative muscle. You just got to keep doing it and create that system. All right, we'll be back with you next week, next Thursday, same time, same place. Let us know if you have any questions between now and then. We want to be a resource for you because we want to see your business excel. That's why we're here. Take care. Have a good one.
See you.
Thanks, guys. Bye.